Tinder Profile Makeover Series 1. In this video, I'll be showing you how I transformed profile from around anywhere between 5 likes to hundreds of likes on end on spam non-stop of beautiful women, okay? This is what I do on a daily basis. I transform and make over profiles. And I'll be showing you how I did that for the guy that we're going to go by with the name of Felix here today. So let's look at Felix's results before he spoke to us and before he achieved a incredible amount of likes and success on Tinder, right? So he was getting, not that many likes on Tinder. His results were pretty subpar. He was just getting nothing. Like, there was no likes, there was only a couple likes, and if you relate to this, then of course there is a reason behind that, and I'm going to be breaking down what that reason is in this video. I'm going to be showing you how you can Photoshop your pictures and how you can actually get some really killer results on Tinder, so we can convert it to get the results you just saw at the start of this video of matching beautiful women. Now, the general gist of Felix's situation pretty much is this. So he had a girlfriend, she cheated on him, and he just has a regular job, in cybersecurity. Had a few hookups. He's looking for a few hookups and rebounds. It's pretty basic stuff, what every man wants. Very generic, nothing over the top or out of the ordinary. Very reasonable, and we could easily help him get these results. They're not too crazy. Now, if that's something you're looking to attain, I think is a realistic goal. Getting a rotation of 5 to 10 girls. Very attainable, very easy to do through Tinder. As you saw with the account, you can easily score results just like that, and we'll show you how we did it for Felix. So let's look at some of Felix's pictures before he actually spoke to us initially. So Felix's first pictures were pretty bad. So as you can see here, he tried to take a shirtless picture, but they didn't come out the best because, of course, taking shirtless pictures takes a little bit of practice. It takes a lot of knowledge. It's a skill that is, hard to master. So for that reason, we had to revamp this picture entirely. Now, a lot of guys make the same mistake with shirtless pictures, and they try to take a shirtless picture and it comes out horribly wrong. You don't want to do that, okay? You got to take a few practice shots. You got to look at some of the examples I listed in my video, and that way you can actually get some really good results. On top of that, you also need to have a pretty, decent physique. Like, you don't want to be skinny fat, but you don't want to be fat. Now, if you're skinny, that is very appealing to women, so that's okay. I worked with a lot of guys that are very, very skinny. It's like they could see abs, but they were stupidly skinny to the point where, they would be considered, victim weight. Like that's the honest truth, right? Because of that, you can actually get away with getting with women, even if you're at victim weight. Now, obviously, when it comes to your masculinity, all of that good stuff, I say that you should try to be as jacked as possible. Like, in my opinion, that's just the natural way to go about it. Like, why would you want to be jacked? Now, don't go over the top and go steroids bodybuilder mode. But, of course, you should try to have a healthy physique. But being skinny is not a limiter. If you're severely obese or if you're skinny fat, that is the limiting factor, and that will limit your results unless you use Photoshop, of course, which is what we offer in our services. Anyway, taking a shirtless picture is an art, and it requires a lot of practice, and I'll be showing you better shirtless pictures and how you can recreate, some pretty good pictures that will do well. So let's pretty much go on to the second picture that Felix had on his profile. So Felix on his second picture on his profile was selfies. Now, selfies is a big no-no. Don't ever do that. Absolutely, the last thing you want on your profile is selfies. Selfies are very tough to pull off, and there are some caveats / rules that you can do for selfies, but a lot of guys are just not at the level to be able to take selfies. Selfies are something that you should avoid. Now, I'll show you how a good selfie actually looks later on in the video that you can replicate so that you can put a selfie on your profile. But you don't want these kind of nerdy selfie cute guy vibes, because they just suck. They just don't work. So don't do that, because you're going to end up killing your results and you're going to get, fuck all. That's the honest truth. Anyway, so selfies are the worst pictures. Avoid taking them. Even if you're super handsome, I would say it takes a certain skill level to take it, and there's certain poses you need to do, and I'll show you how you can do those. Now, again, selfies can be okay if they're done right, if you're in the right lighting, the right pose, if you're lean. Yes, you need to be lean. If you're not lean, don't take a selfie, because your face is going to be bloated, it's going to be chubby, you can't see your cheekbones, your jaw, whatever, your nose is going to be poofy. Don't take selfies, okay? If you're around 15 or 10% body fat, cool, whatever. If you're skinny, whatever. If you're above 15% body fat, you're probably going to not look that good with a selfie. That's the honest truth. So you're probably better off not putting that in and just trying to opt for other pictures. Because at the end of the day, as long as you get results on Tinder with some sort of pictures, it doesn't matter. You don't need a selfie, okay? The selfie as well should be towards the end of the profile, and it's only meant to be there to pretty much confirm to the girl that, hey, you're not a catfish. Your selfie is more of like a raw, authentic picture that, it shows your entire aesthetic, right? Because it's very easy to forward angles on Tinder, and that is what you should abuse technically. But if you are good looking to a very high level extent, it's nice to throw a selfie in there to go, hey, I'm not just using angles and catfishing you, I'm also actually really good looking in real life as well. Because, you know, if you are somewhat overweight or you're not the best looking, right, you can get away with using angles and stuff like that and still perform well on the date. But if you are good looking, you should put it to the advantage of, yeah, like, you know, using the selfies, right? Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't play by rules that don't exist. So I hope that helps. Anyway, moving to picture number 3. Picture number 3 here, I think this one could actually be somewhat okay, but easily we could do better. It's quite a low effort picture, and I wouldn't advise anyone does this, honestly. Now, the main issue of this picture is the background. The problem with the background of this picture is it's quite anime-like, it's quite negative. I just wouldn't personally use it because it makes you come off as a geek, and girls are just going to think you're a strange little weeb. And most people that watch anime are unfortunately losers. Now, by all means, if you watch anime, I personally don't care. I watched Dragon Ball when I was younger. I watched Pokemon. I watched some of, you know, anime when I was a little kid. Whatever, cool, good for you. I'm not going to sit here and talk down on you for watching anime. But unfortunately, majority of the audience of anime is losers, and that is just the honest truth. Say what you want. You know, you can cry about it. I don't care. Like, go on any weird anime forum, bro, and it's just full of strange kids. That's the honest truth. So anyways, moving forward from that, some things are better left unsaid. So in order to protect your respect, don't tell girls that you watch anime or anything geeky. Okay? You don't want to do that. I'm into my cars. I love cars. I'm not going to go and tell girls about cars that I'm into. Because the truth is, to them that's geeky, it's weird, they don't care. They don't want to know about my car collection, and they couldn't care less. Okay? I could go into the specs of a twin turbo engine or some garbage, or talk about, you know, random car parts, and a girl would look at me and just think, you know, you're a weirdo. Don't talk about things that are just not necessary. All right? Okay, so now this is what we did to pretty much help him take better pictures. So we guided him along with the guidelines, and we'll walk you through how that went. So one of our specialists, Max, he developed a playbook in regards to taking pictures, and it's about 112 pages long, and it's a complete masterclass on taking pictures. This is something we offer to the guys in the service, pretty much help them take pictures. So there's a visual example as well. There's an audio book. There's an actual book as well, a physical copy that you can get your hands on pretty much with the service, and essentially explains to you the importance of taking pictures, how to get professional camera settings on your phone, as examples of good pictures you can take towards the end, and it pretty much breaks down every single thing you can imagine with the pictures. You can read the contents on the right, and like I said, there's video, audio examples of, you know, everything pretty much, just so that you can get those pictures done right. This is kind of the level of effort we go to for our clients. This is, you know, the kind of work we put in, because that's why we get, you know, the results that we do of hundreds of likes en masse, because that's what it takes to be the best. That's the honest truth. That's what it takes. Anyway, so this is the pictures he sent back with our one-to-one help, and we'll look at that. So picture 1, he sent us this picture. Not too bad. I think this picture is actually okay. Is it, you know, perfect? Absolutely not. It's quite boring. It's, you know, just a regular bathroom, but because he's skinny, it works and gets the job done. So this is the classic shirtless shot, no problem, works, gets, you know, it just does the job. Now, it does need a bit of Photoshop, which I'll show you after how we performed on the Photoshop, you know, what we exactly did to get him, you know, the results he did. And the shirtless picture, again, is pretty good, I'll be honest with you. But it's not the best, okay? Like, I'm not going to pretend it's perfect, okay? It's good, but it's not the best. Now, again, yes, he is skinny, somewhat lean. He is able to get away with having trashier pictures than you. But, you know, I would say and argue that a lot of people can attain his physique. It's not out of ordinary. It's not crazy, okay? Like, he's not, you know, a genetic monster. He's 5'7", for crying out loud. Like, if you're, you know, if you're looking at him and thinking he's unattainable, that's crazy, man. Like, he's not unattainable. That's just a limiting belief, and you need to stop thinking that way. And even if you're out of shape, you just use Photoshop, man. Like, again, don't play by rules that don't exist. Girls use Snapchat filters on their pictures all the time like crazy, man. They've been an advocate of Photoshop. They're the pioneers behind all of this stuff. I've just, you know, if I'm being honest with you, a lot of the tricks that I've learned to, you know, manipulate in my results on Tinder is just from watching what other girls do. Like, I used to get girls on Tinder when I was younger, and I would see that, you know, they would Photoshop their pictures in front of me. Like, oh yeah, look, this is what I did with this picture. And I was like, holy crap, you know. And that's just eye-opening to me, and, you know, it's just showing me that, you know, if girls are going to do it, why aren't guys doing it? That's just my thoughts. Anyway, so he ended up getting 50 likes on Hinge with this picture in a span of 2 days, so that goes to show that it was quite good. By the way, this was in Florida, by the way, just to give you a reference of his location. So if you wanted to get an idea of location and the importance behind it, he's in Florida. I don't know the exact population. I don't recall, but it's not too bad of a place to be from. Anyway, this was thanks to the other pictures as well that we did with him, and the Photoshop as well, and the profile optimization of bio, which I'll be showing you later on. Now, picture 2. For picture 2, we went with this picture right here with the bike and the car. Now, this picture is really good for appeal because girls love biker guys. The amount of appeal in guys that ride bikes is insane. I don't know what it is, but girls just love any guy that rides bikes. If you don't believe me, go check out Biker First Straps on TikTok if you're, I mean, it's a bit weird to say that because it's kind of gay, but at the end of the day, if you don't believe me, go feel free to check it out. Bikers have ridiculous appeal, and, even if you're not good looking, you can still get results with a bike. I had plenty of friends that were not attractive, that had a bike that was short, that they had not the best facial features, or, they didn't have hair, and they still got incredible results with their bike, and they pulled, really, really beautiful women. So at the end of the day, I would say bikes are really cool and they can get you incredible results regardless of, your situation or where you may be. I've seen some guys that are overweight pull girls on bikes, like Sevilio. I'm talking like 25-30% body fat. It's crazy. So yeah, bike is a really great way to get women. Now, do I advise you get a goddamn bike to get women? Nah, I don't think that's right because you should ride a bike for the pure joy of it. But some men live to get women, and I'm not against that. I've lived through that kind of phase of my life where I lived to only sleep with women. But again, I was gonna say, this isn't, something I would recommend doing. I would say get a bike because you actually love the sport of it. Okay. Now, as I explained in the, early on, I had a few friends. I actually had one in particular in Liverpool who would actually pull 10 out of 10s, and he would ride on the back of his bike. I believe he had a H2 or a GSXR, but I don't remember. But he was a pretty cool guy. He pulled a lot of girls. He was not the best looking, but he still did pretty alright for himself. Anyway, bikes are an incredible tool to attract women. So if you're unattractive or lack the looks, they can come in handy. So yeah, like I said, check it out on TikTok. The first straps from bikers, they do pretty good. So anyway, picture three. Picture three, we're going to be looking at a car picture. This one's a straight up just a car picture. Now, this picture of him with his car is pretty basic. It's pretty simple. I think, some things that we could have done differently is play around with the headlights, maybe put the side lights on, maybe take it at night. That would have looked pretty cool. Now, this pose is actually alright. It's not too bad. And it does show a lot of appeal. Now, with his jaw, he sits well within the frame, and it looks pretty solid. There are some other pictures you could take. For example, you could open the door. You could sit on top of the frame of the door. There's loads of crazy variety of pictures you could take. I'll be showing you those in other videos as well with other makeovers because I'm going to introduce the Tinder profile makeover series. So yeah, no problem. Anyway, the lighting is good and it shows off the car here. I think it's, a good background, but again, I think it would have been better being taken at night rather than during the day. Honestly, I think taking it during the day, it can be okay if there's sunset, but I just don't think it's the one. Now, I know you can't see his jaw in the actual picture, but his jaw did shine quite well in this picture. I think you might be able to see it in the later pictures because I've made the box a little bit more sizable. Now, girls find that guys that drive more attractive because essentially a lot of girls don't drive themselves, depending where you're from, especially in the UK. Most girls don't drive. It's very rare to come across that. And having a car, no matter how bad it is a really good asset. It is a really good asset. Now, of course, if you come from, a very, very wealthy area, then the competition is different. Girls are probably going to have cars themselves, so then that changes the game entirely, and that means that your car doesn't really matter. Now, like I have a guy from Northern Ireland, and unfortunately everyone drives there, so that kind of mitigates the whole car factor. But, in UK, for example, or, New York, no one really drives, so, you're going to do pretty well with the car there. Anyway, he's also wearing some plain masculine clothes. I had a few guys that work with me, and unfortunately, despite being in their mid-20s, they still wear childish clothing with, Spider-Man on the t-shirt or, goddamn, I don't know, Rick and Morty or something. Guys, come on, if you're, past the age of 18, you should definitely change up your fashion sense, and you shouldn't be wearing cartoonish clothes. It's pretty diabolical. You don't want to do that, because it's going to make you lose respect for other people around you and yourself, because if you dress like you're a teenager in your later years, that's going to be your mindset. That's going to be your attitude. And I would say mindset and attitude is very, very, very important. So don't mess around with that. Anyway, picture number 4. So picture number 4, again, this is a caveat, a rule breaker. It's a selfie. This selfie is pretty good. So we saw a lot of potential in the Photoshop here that we could do in his face. So we thought, why not? Let's make use of it. So again, his face card is not the best, pretty average. I blurred him as much as possible here just to give you a little bit of an idea how it works. So what we did for the Photoshop is just make a few adjustments to his face. We'll show you that later on. But with good lighting and good angles and good facial being lean, all of that good stuff, you can get away with a selfie and it will do just as well on Tinder. So yeah, if you're fat or chunky or just overweight, a selfie will not work for you. And I think trying to take a selfie is just an absolute waste. Don't throw yourself under the bus. Get to 10% body fat, then give it a go again. Anyway, picture number 5. So this one is a super important picture because it plays the role of being an anchor or a catalyst. So what do I mean by an anchor or a catalyst? So essentially what this means is no girls will ever question Photoshop, right? But we want to have one picture that is not Photoshop so that when you do meet the girl and she's like, have you put on some weight? Because she's not going to know that you photoshopped your pictures. It's impossible to tell, right? Like, if you do the Photoshop to the way we do it, it's impossible to tell, and you'll see later on how we do it. Now, she will potentially, notice, and for that reason, having the catalyst anchor picture where it's not photoshopped and it looks very raw and authentic, you can say that you're, off season, you're not in shape anymore, these pictures come from when you were younger, and you can get away with it very easily. Now, never in my life, ever in my entire life, have I ever had a client ever get accused of using Photoshop by a girl. Because most girls are happy to be there with you in the moment, and once they're on the date, they don't care. It's the honest truth. Because if you think in a real scenario, with the Photoshop that I'll show you that I did for this guy, you'll see that, with clothes, you can't even tell the difference. And on top of that, you say it's good angles, this and that, but again, I've never ever had that situation, and I've had thousands of guys I've worked with. Like, I'm not exaggerating that. I've had probably more than, a couple thousand calls in my lifespan of, this whole channel, probably. Maybe even more, maybe even 10,000, God knows. But the point is, I've had a lot of calls. And a lot of these guys that get their Photoshop jobs done, never have they been called out. Never. It's honestly astonishing. So, with Photoshop edits, let's show how that looks, and pretty much, let's see essentially what the results were behind them. Now, firstly, I will show you some other pictures he took, and we'll talk about why they were not the best. So these are some other pictures that he submitted in. I didn't like this one because chest is not shaven. I would say, shaving your stomach, your chest is pretty important. Some of you may think that's zesty, but I think when it comes to getting girls, I'm all about female appeal, not male appeal, okay? I'm trying to attract women, not men, all right? And having a chest full of hair, yes, it may look masculine and all of that good stuff and the red pill meta garbage or whatever. But at the end of the day, if you want to be appealing to women, like, yeah, you got to shave your chest, bro. You got to shave your stomach hair. You got to shave your pubes, okay? It's just weird not to. Now, I'm not saying you to go and shave your legs because that's kind of strange, and I think that's taking it too far. It's kind of zesty. I think that's crazy, but at the bare minimum, you should shave your belly, bro. Like, that's crazy. And then the one in the middle, I just don't know what was honestly going on in that. I was just like, what even is in that picture? Like, I couldn't tell. So I was like, we're not using that one, because if I don't know what's going on, then how is the girl gonna know? Now, obviously, I know they're a bunch of bikers, bro. But on the service level, like, it does nothing for the profile. It's useless. Now, on the right, this is just another picture that was similar to the one that we used to shoot this one. Now, we didn't use this one because, again, it was just not as good as the other one. It's that simple. Honestly, like, the guy sent, like, hundreds of pictures, and we just chose the best ones. We handpicked them ourselves. Now, obviously, let's look at the Photoshop edits Max did for him. Max is our dedicated Photoshop guy, so he's going to pretty much show you... I'll show you what Max has done for his Photoshop. So I'll show you the kind of edits he did to make him into a Playboy. Anyway... So the edits we did for his Photoshop for the physique is this one here, as you can see in the actual pictures side by side. Nothing over the top, very attainable, very realistic, and it could be done with good lighting. It's very easy to pull off. So that's not a problem right there, okay? No girl will ever know, no problems will arise from it, and it pays off very well. And then for Photoshop job number 2, we have the bike picture again. No real edits on this one because, again, all we needed to do was the face edits, and I'm not going to show you too much behind the face because I don't want any incidents coming from this video on, him getting messaged or whatever. That would be quite bad. Anyways, we did some minor edits. We made his lips look thicker. We made his cheekbones look a little bit bigger. Just, just general fucking basic stuff. Nothing over the top. And Photoshop job number 3, again, we just made some changes to the face. You can actually see the jawline. It's become slightly sharper. Again, some changes to the facial aesthetics and the facial features. And I'll show you what the facial changes look like up close and up front. So nose was made a bit smaller. Cheekbones were made a little bit sharper. Lips were made a bit fuller. Jaw/chin area was ascended quite a bit. Just a little bit. And as you can see, side by side, it's very, very minimal. It's not crazy. It's not over the top. It's not like... fuck you, kind of Photoshop that would make a girl, be repulsed, right? So anyways, Photoshop job number 5, we actually did not do any Photoshop here. Like I said, you don't want to do any Photoshop. And if you were paying attention to the video, instead of, half-arsing it, you would have known that this is actually a catalyst picture, an anchor. So yeah, don't do that. Now that we have all of the pictures ready, the deck of pictures that we like to call it, we can pretty much go live with the hinge account, and we'll do some optimizations for the bio, of course. So here's what we did for the actual bio. So for the bio, we did something like look for something casual like a wife. And then for relationship goals, we put, still figuring it out because you want to give girls false hope, right? You want to sell them the dream. If you don't want to tell them you're looking for long term, because if you tell them you're looking for the long term, what's going to happen is you're going to exclude yourself from the girls that want short term. So still figuring it out is a nice thing to put in the middle. And it's a good way to just, sell the dream to a girl. And then obviously Over here, he put his height. I told him not to put his height of being 5'7" because it would impact his results, but he ended up proving me wrong, and he ended up getting some pretty good results in that regards anyway. So in the bio, we put something looking for something casual like a wife because that suits his aesthetic appeal. A lot of girls like that when it comes from a guy that looks like him, and I think it paid off well for him, as you can see in the results later on. So yeah, with your bio, it completely depends on your personality. It completely depends on you as a man. For certain guys, it would be very different, and again, it just varies massively. Don't use his bio. I don't think it's good for a lot of people. I think it only just suited him specifically. Now, for the essentials, essentially this part, we just lied about the height being 6 foot because, again, no girl will ever question it. Again, she will never question it. And you can just wear height boosters if you really wanted to. And on top of that, you can just tell that I'll give you the other inches later. The language is cool to mention them if you speak a few, so you can put French, German, even if you speak a few words of it, just put it. The only time you'll be fucked is if a girl actually speaks French or German. Then you're screwed. But apart from that, you're fine. Anyways, then for the prompts, we want to go for something, that's kind of unique, something that's exciting, that gets girls excited. So for Felix, we put Turkish because he's Turkish, so we put Antalya, and then in his bio, this is an exotic location or whatever, right? So it's pretty simple, straightforward stuff, congruent. It makes sense for the story because with dating, you want to have a story to tell. So anyways, for prompt 2, we put dominant girls because he was into dominant girls. I believe he said he wanted a girl that would be able to take control in the relationship. Fair enough, whatever, I don't care. If to each their own. Honestly, I couldn't care less. Now, a lot of girls thought it was an ironic joke, so that paid off. So, even if you don't want dominant girls, just use it anyways, because girls love it. They think you're being ironic when he wasn't, so it worked. Now, for this part, we put his star sign as a Scorpio, because girls go crazy for this. I don't know what it is, but they just think Scorpios are, better in bed. Now, I don't understand anything about star signs, so someone will have to explain that in the comments below. So yeah, I don't know. Just put Scorpio. Girls fucking die for it, okay? Just trust me, yeah? Just trust me. I'm not going to link any sources. You can look at my results on my website. I've got literal testimonials. Anyways, for this part, for the lifestyle, just, say that you have a dog. Tell her that your dog died if you don't actually have a dog. It doesn't matter. Just get the sympathy points on the board. And for drinking, just keep it normal socially at the weekend because that's pretty average. And for workout, always put sometimes because you want these girls to think that you barely work out and look good. Even if you're a model, you should tell the girls that you barely work out because then they're just going to think, oh, this guy's effortlessly handsome or whatever. And then for the drinking, even if you don't drink, just put socially at the weekend and when you meet the girl and you're supposed to not drink because you're Muslim or something. I don't know why you're sleeping with women when you're religious and you don't drink, but, again, to each their own or whatever. But yeah, just say that you're not drinking on that day because of some stupid bullshit. Like, you've got a boxing match or something. That's what I used to pull. That card was pretty cool. Now, for the interests, just put usual activities, that are exciting to girls. Bar, cocktails, nightlife, festivals, Netflix. Just, think what is exciting for a date. You can copy what I put there. Honestly, these options really do not matter. And for, him, like, that's what we put in. It did pretty well. So, yeah. I'm not going to go too deep into that because it's just a waste of time. Now, for the rest of the options, they're all bullshit, and I'm not going to sit here and waste time going through that because, bro, like, honestly, any other options just cope. It's just cope. Like, it will not impact your results, and I'm not going to sit here and go through that. If you think I am, bro, like, this channel's not for you. Like, you got another thing coming, bro. Like, fuck off, okay? I'm not going to explain to you the blue pod garbage that they have available. Okay, so, anyway, moving forward. So, now with all of that set up, what do we do now, Felix? So, pretty much, we wait 48 hours to let the account cook. You want to wait 48 hours, and, while I'm explaining this, I thought I may as well mention you should get a new phone number. We have a phone number supplier for our service with the guys we work with, and you want to get a new email as well. Make sure that's all verified and checked off, and then you're pretty much good to go. And then after waiting 48 hours, you should get pretty ridiculous results, and waiting always pays off. So, as you can see, this guy, he ended up getting around 150 goddamn likes or something. I will pretty much show you those likes / results towards the end of the video and his entire profile. Anyway, with our specialist help, we blew up his Tinder and we actually got him a girlfriend as well. So his girlfriend is right there. It was pretty cool. So that was nice. Good for them. Anyways, we did a pretty good job. So let's look at some feedback from him. So the feedback from him was pretty positive overall. He was quite happy. He had some pretty solid results and he ended up doing pretty well for himself. And he was like 10 out of 10. So yeah, that's cool. Anyway, so that's the girl. We had a few conversations here or there about, just his goals, his results. It was pretty solid. As you can see, we hit the expectations we laid out. He pretty much laid out for us, and we exceeded and went above and beyond for him. We ended up delivering on our promises, and we ended up giving him what he was looking for. So he's pretty much a loyal game, and he's pretty much just a loyal man to the game. He's done pretty well for himself, and he's gotten some pretty sick results, and he ended up getting a girlfriend. Anyway, so Let's talk about the girlfriend situation, all right? So with the girlfriend situation, it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple, straightforward. It's a girl on Hinge, nothing crazy. So we just followed the conversation with the typical pickup lines. We just use copy paste pickup lines, honestly. Like, that's just what works at the start of the conversation. And as we go along, with the whole pickup line scenario, if you've watched my texting analysis videos, I can break those down for you. And those, I won't delve too deep into it in this video because it's just not worth my time. And again, if you want to learn the texting, I've made an entire dedicated video to texting, but I'll quickly flick through it anyway. So the pickup lines, nothing crazy, just straightforward stuff. We were just dealing with counters, stuff like her saying, I wouldn't be on this app, would I? And then we pretty much deal with it by saying stuff like, well, you can get off now since you found your future husband. Now, she said something like, I'll be the judge of that, just typical shit test and blah, 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 just a bunch of garbage. And we just continue to counter it and build up with it using status, manipulation, and a bunch of tactics that I've, pretty much dived into in other videos on texting. This video is dedicated to making over profiles and, just a Tinder profile series type thing. But for this video, I won't cover too much about texting because, again, it's just long-winded. And, again, I don't want to explain it. Anyways, so we just continue with the texting scenarios. If you want, you can pause the video. You can copy-paste these text messages and break them down for yourself. I have included an explanation on the right. Again, I'm not going to read it all out loud to you because, again, I want this video to be concise. I want it to be useful. And I want it to be short and sweet. So as you can see here, we just continue to press forward with the texting. We just continue to talk about, the whole thing. Just continue to fugazi, as I like to call it. And we just sold her a bunch of dreams, a bunch of lies, and that's what works in the end of the day, and they're in a happy relationship, and no one's complaining, and that's all that matters. So yeah, these are the kind of results you get working with the team, and essentially we specialize in handling the most dire cases known to man, and we truly can transform any man's dating life. That's honestly what we live by, and that's what we do. So if you're the type of man that lives a life like this, you're not pulling women, you're getting ugly girls, come to us, we got you covered. Seriously, we can actually remap your profile and get you incredible results. So you want results like that I've just shown you in this video, then get in touch with us on our website down below. I will show you his Tinder account towards the end of the video, so if you stick with me, I will show you that in a bit, okay? So anyways, here's some screenshots of my portfolio of results on Tinder. Beautiful woman, that's what we go for, and I will be including his Tinder account at the end of this video, just flicking through his matches, his likes, just so you guys can see what that looks like, okay? So anyways, thank you for watching this video. At the end of this video, you'll see his results now. Anyways, peace.